Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Rox Burkey. We do hope you enjoyed today's show.
Hi, and welcome to the Indie Beacon Show. I'm Rox Burkey, and I am here tonight to help you discover more about Mark M Bello. Not only is he a published author, but he's an attorney. He's a social justice advocate. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I want to get right into it because I want to tell all of our listeners out here all about you, but I want it to be in your words. So, Mark, why don't you tell me how you got into writing? Because it's a fascinating story.
Well, I practiced law for a long time. I've been an attorney for almost 45 years.
Wow.
And I've seen a lot of bad things in my life. I'm 69 years old. I've witnessed the worst types of behavior, often not from who you expect these things to be done by. Citizens being cheated by large corporations, insurance companies taking advantage of our citizens, the government leaning on and not treating citizens fairly. So I practiced law in those arenas, and then I started writing a series of articles for a online newspaper regarding social justice or social injustices, let's call it that.
Sure.
And my experience with both the criminal and civil justice systems. But the case of my life happened when I was only out of law school 7 years. I had a case where a Catholic priest abused some children, and the church in the Detroit area was covering it up. And my job was to essentially out not only the priest, but the hierarchy of the church. And that turned out to be the case of my life. I handled it for a good 4 years, traveled to 7 states, beat them up pretty badly, if I may say so myself. And we had a good result. And I always promised myself after that experience and the way it felt that I would write a book about it one day. I didn't think it would take me 25, 30 years to write it, but I was busy. My career took precedent over my bucket list item, which is writing a book about the experience. And when I slowed my practice down and began to consider retirement, I picked it up again and wrote in earnest and ended up writing my first book, which is called Betrayal of Faith.
I think it's fascinating, Mark, that your Zachary Blake legal thriller novels, I mean, they are based on real cases or ripped from the headlines, because what you just said is it's not an old headline. It's not just an old headline. That's a new headline as well. So social justice is an interesting focus for you to have for writing as well as being an attorney. It sounds so sad. Was it hard?
Well, it's interesting. I didn't fashion myself to be an author, and I experienced the case. So from the standpoint of writing the first book, it was based on personal experience and something I always promised myself I would do.
Right.
When I sat down to write the second book, or thought about writing a second book, the question was, could I write a book about something that I didn't personally experience? Could I write? The first book was fiction based on truth, and the second book, the inspiration for the book was the 2016 election. Whether you like or dislike Donald Trump, and I don't want to get too political here,
Right.
but I will candidly tell you that I'm not a fan. So the question was, as he was candidate Trump, would somebody who says the things he says and does the things he does or promises the things he promises, like a Muslim ban, like crackdowns on immigration. Is this person, this self-professed bigot, somebody you want to be president of the United States? I wasn't convinced that he would be that kind of president. I just didn't like the candidate. So I wrote a fictional account of a president who was the worst kind of bigot and, let's say, criminal you can imagine. I've gotten a lot of heat for creating this character, whose name is Ronald John, President Ronald John. And I've been accused of doing a hit job on Trump. My response to people who say that is that if you see a similarity between my evil character, who I admit is evil, and Donald Trump, then that's on Trump, not on not on me. I admittedly created a very bad guy. So people who think that there's a similarity must see something in Trump that is similar to the guy I created, because my guy was first. I wrote the book while Trump was still a candidate.
Well, there you go.
So that turned out to be my second book, Betrayal of Justice. And I don't want to ramble, but the point I wanted to make was, now I've written a second book. It's not about a personal case I handled. I'm able to do this, and I started pulling things from the headlines and writing novels about them. And I found I was able to do that and do it well.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And you've also done a lot of research behind each of the stories for these series to help get your world built, which is essentially what you do when you write a thriller, is you're building a world, whether that world is, copied after something, or, a wonderful imagination of an author, that each genre has their own tilt to it. So, who is in the back of you, cheering you on and helping you refine your stories and do some of the editing? Who's your support staff?
Well, support staff, I have none.
Okay.
It's all on me. I have a lot of people who read for me.
Okay.
Who help me, let's say, make a book better.
Yeah.
I have a large family. I have 4 children and 9 grandchildren and a wonderful wife.
Awesome.
And a brother and a sister, and so on and so forth.
Right.
A lot of extended family. In fact, to jump off on a little side note, I actually took, I'm going to show it to you. I actually took some family recipes,
right,
and turned that into a cookbook that is a fictional Zachary Blake family cookbook.
Oh my gosh!
It's actually a bunch of Jewish recipes that come from my own family and extended family, all the way back to Russia and Poland, back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Now I'm getting hungry.
I'm kind of having fun with this author thing.
Now I'm getting hungry. You've got a main character, Zachary Blake, who's now also, authoring a cookbook. I mean, how fun is that? That's pretty terrific.
And it was fun to do. First of all, taking family recipes and history, because what I do is I take actual family members, recall some anecdotes about them. Somebody did this back then or did that back then. I invent a character in Zachary Blake's life that is the equivalent of the character I'm thinking about in my own life, and tell the story. So there's not only good recipes in this book, but funny stories, and it was fun to do.
No, it sounds really fun. I mean, I don't want to go down that path really far, but is there one recipe that you absolutely adore?
Great Grandma Pearl's apple pie, cookie dough apple pie. That is my mother's classic, we could have been millionaires recipe if she had ever mass produced it, and she didn't. But we have preserved as best we can.
Yeah.
Nobody can duplicate my mother's recipes.
Uh-oh.
you'll find, I don't know what religion you are or what your ethnic background is, but you'll find in the Jewish religion
Yep.
that these old country Eastern European recipes
Yep.
all involve a pinch of this, or what they call a bissel of this and a bissel of that, which means a little.
Yep. Yep.
And nobody knows what the right quantity is.
Oh, Mark.
So it's kind of hit and miss sometimes.
No, I understand. And I mean, I love this. I'm going to have to go look at that. But Mark,
it's not out yet. It's not out yet, but it's coming.
Oh, ooh. Okay. So if we could take a short stop here, we need to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back in just a minute. I love this.
Welcome to B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors, where indie authors can earn their fair share from the books you purchase. We have a wide variety of genres that you can select from. We also have ebooks and paperbacks. You can select authors by their first names, and we also have music. If you're interested in their city or country, we have that listed as well. If you are an author and would like to be on our bookstore, we have 3 options for you. There is a small minimal charge, or you can join our organization at authorsmarketing.org and learn how to better market and sell yourself. That is B4R.store, a bookstore for indie readers and indie authors.
Hi, I'm Charles Brakefield.
And I'm Rox Burkey.
Together, we write as Brakefield and Berkey.
Our techno thriller series is 12 books strong, with book 13, The Enigma Tracer, planned for 2022.
Techno thrillers are the cyber good guys versus today's darknet thugs.
We added our series prelude, Out of Poland, a 1939 historical novella, in 2021.
We also have 8 short stories available in family and women's contemporary genres, with more planned for 2022.
Please visit our website, enigmaseries.com, to learn more about why we say technology is today's weapon of choice. Thank you.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Rox Burkey. We do hope you enjoyed today's show.
Welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show, and I'm having so much fun with Mark Bello. He is the author, attorney, social advocate, and we're having fun. And he's going to talk a little bit more later about his upcoming books and those kinds of things. But I want to go into when you launched your very first book. What was the sense that you had on the completion? Because it was your bucket list item. So, I mean, was there like a enormous pride? Did you beg everybody on your Rolodex to buy it, or?
Oh, I don't know. I can't say that I have sold a ton of books. So, I mean, yes, you go to your warm market, your own warm market, and pitch the fact that you've written a book, and people who don't expect you to be an author, who are surprised by it, pick it up, read it, and say, "Wow, he can really do this." That book was, like I said, a bucket list item, very important to me. It still is. A little side note, by the way, the priest that was the incentive or the inspiration for the novel, the one I sued.
Yep.
Is the subject of a current investigation by the Michigan Attorney General, who is looking into all these old cases, and she found that one. I was one of the lawyers who was contacted. She recharged him for, I think, 4 old cases, and he has just pled guilty to new crimes and is going to prison. So at 80 years old, this thing is still rearing its ugly head and biting him in the rear, and he will spend, I think, close to the rest of his life in prison.
So, Mark, I think that's so telling about your passion that you put into your work. And, it is something that it's a fictional character the way you are portraying it, but it is based on fact, and it is very relevant to many people in the community that put up with abuse that had gone unchecked. So in a way, you are really enlightening people. Do you speak to groups about this story and this problem?
I've spoken to a couple of groups about it.
Okay.
What troubles me the most
Mm-hmm.
isn't that there are predator priests out there. There are people who are ill, people who are sick. A pedophile is not a well person. What bothers me the most about the scandal is the cover-up. And in the book, I create a rather expanded version of the cover-up. I create an organization called the Coalition, and the Coalition's job is to cover up these crimes by any means possible. And in the book, I mean by any means possible.
Yeah.
They'll do anything to cover this up. I can't say that necessarily about the Catholic Church, but I can say that that's what it felt like to me. It felt like there was a CIA organization behind everything, spinning my wheels and doing what they could to keep me from discovering the truth.
So have people that were involved in that case, which is a horrible way to put it, who are close to the case, let's put it that way, have they found a certain closure from the story being written and being exposed? Has that helped anyone?
I can't speak for the victims. I can tell you that the people who covered up the crimes have not been brought to justice, only the priests that committed the crimes. So what bothers me the most, looking back and looking forward, even if you go all the way from the 1970s, where my cases happened, to the 2000s and the Boston scandal that created the movie Spotlight,
Mm-hmm.
The people who enable criminals do not seem to have to face justice, and that troubles me a lot. But as far as victims are concerned, I hope that victims and people who are not aware of the crisis become aware and are grateful or appreciative of the fact that there's a book out there that exposes this. I have heard from a few victims who have thanked me for writing it, but I wouldn't say that I've got an outpouring of of gratitude emails or something like that say, "Wow, you've changed my life" or something like that. That hasn't happened.
I don't want to minimize the impact that your stories make, but you have other stories that you have done.
I do.
So, how much more on your thriller series and your cookbook? Well, you also have children's books, right?
I do. I just wrote a series of children's books. I'm going to release the first one very soon, probably February, March.
Okay.
It's about bullying, and I'm trying to write social justice / safety books like my adult books,
right,
for children. And I hope to go to schools and read them to kids.
Oh, I think that's very
what
powerful.
My intent is.
So you have the cookbook that hasn't been released. You have the children's book upcoming release, and I think you have another one in this series as well. And those are going to release this year in 2022?
Yes, probably the early part of this year. I don't know whether I'm going to use the cookbook as a something I offer. If you buy a book, you get a cookbook with it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but maybe a family that buys the children's book will get the cookbook. I haven't decided yet, but
that'd be fun.
They'll all be out the early part of 2022.
So how many children's books are in your series?
I've written so far, unfinished, for lack of a better way to say it.
Okay.
4.
Okay.
Working on 2 more. But the first one is done. I have a copy of it here somewhere.
And that's bullying, right?
That's called Happy Jack, Sad Jack. There it is.
Okay.
And that's like I said, it's a story about a kid that is biracial, and he is going to kindergarten for the first time, and he finds out he's different than the other kids,
Oh, oh,
and is treated that way. So it's a bullying story, and one that has a nice message, I think.
so all four of them, though, have messages for children, right?
Either safety or social justice. Yes,
Okay.
I wrote a book. I wrote a book about distracted driving and the dangers of basically telling your mother or your father, the driver, to put their phone down while they're driving.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty relevant today. There you go. All right.
You think?
Yeah, yeah. As long as the child doesn't have a phone, you're fine, right?
Well, I can tell you that firsthand that many of the auto accident cases these days
Uh-huh.
are happening because of distracted driving, not just related to phones, but related to all the gimmicks and gadgets that they have in cars these days
Right.
that cause us to look at something other than the road ahead.
I think that's a really good, powerful message. So when you get these, and I'm going to focus on the children's books for just a minute because I know you have a lot of grandchildren, and I'm sure they help influence how you took the direction with those children's books. Are you planning to maybe visit some schools or some children's groups, church groups, to share some of these messages? Because I would think that would resonate wonderfully.
That's what I hope to do. I absolutely plan to do that. And by the way, you mentioned my grandchildren. Jack is one of my grandchildren.
Oh,
He's not biracial, but he's one of my grandchildren. I have a book about the smallest kid in the class,
huh?
and how he's treated differently, and that is my grandson Noah, who happens to be vertically challenged, if you want to say that. And by the way, that was how I was when I was a kid. I'm not a tall man, and I was one of the shortest people in school when I was young. So
Right.
it's kind of a personal experience story, and my grandson is going through it right now. So that compelled me to write that book. Distracted driving is a whole different topic inspired by my work. You just see tragedy after tragedy caused by somebody putting on makeup, somebody eating in their car while they're driving, somebody texting and driving, somebody using their phone and driving, somebody playing with their navigation while they're driving.
Right.
Those things can wait while you're driving, and that's kind of what the book is about.
And that's really good because some of those messages are not easily talked about from parent to child. So having a book that helps guide them, I think, is an absolutely brilliant way to direct it. So I noticed when you held up the book, and I'm not asking you to hold up again, but the graphics were amazing. How did you get the graphics accomplished?
I have a wonderful, wonderful friend named Melinda Faugust, who's a children's writer herself. If you look her up, she either writes under her full name, which is Melinda, or her maiden name is Talina Rich or something like that. Talianeich, and her last name is Falgoust. She's terrific. She writes children's books and she illustrates them, and she is a tremendous illustrator.
Oh man, she certainly is. All right. Can you hold it up
these were all hand drawn.
Hold it up just a little bit. There you go. Oh my gosh. Perfect.
That's Jack, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. That is awesome.
So that's Jack in school. They're being very upset that he was just accosted in the playground.
Oh.
So I'm having fun with that these days.
What and we're going to take a break in just a second, but I want to know, what grade level are your children's books written for?
I would say preschool all the way to 4th grade.
All right. Awesome. Hey, we have to take a short break. We're going to listen to our sponsors, and then we will be right back with Mark Bello and his wonderful stories.
Each and every one of us has a mission in life. Mine is to help people laugh through the good times and the bad. My name is Charlotte Canyon, and I'm an author, a speaker, and a host on Indie Beacon Radio. If you need me to speak at an event or autograph my book, you can contact me at charlotte@charlottecanyon.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Authors Marketing International, a membership-based organization where members learn how to better market and sell themselves. Join us at authorsmarketing.org.
Marianne Fairmouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award-winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at fairmouth.com.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new books by indie authors. Your hostess for today's show is Rox Burkey. We do hope you enjoy today's show.
Welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show, and I am having so much fun talking with Mark Bello.
I'm sorry, Rox. The camera didn't flip onto you, so if you would do that again, please.
Hi, and welcome back to the Indie Beacon Show. I'm Rox Burkey, and I'm here. Gosh, Mark, we've been here for a while, and I'm having so much fun with you. Time is so precious, but I want to really talk about your upcoming releases, if you don't mind. So, we're in 2022. So what books are going to be next on the release for you?
The children's book is the next release, the Happy Jack, Sad Jack.
Okay.
That's on available on pre-order right now on Amazon.
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble with the formatting. Amazon is very particular. I don't know what you guys have experienced with your publishing careers, but this is my first children's book, and I'm having a lot of difficulty with Amazon on the formatting. They don't like certain sizes. They don't like picture books. They don't like this. They don't like that. You've got the KDP version versus the print version, and I'm having a little difficulty that I haven't had, by the way, with my adult novels, with the picture books. But
we might get you some help for that, Mark. I'll reach out to you after the show.
That would be great.
All right, so that's going to come out soon because it is done. You're just kind of getting through the navigation of Amazon to be able to do that, and it's on pre-order.
It should be out in February.
Okay, and so it's going to be available in ebook and paperback.
Yes, and hardcover if you look for it outside of the Amazon platform. Amazon does not do hardcover children's books.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So then, what's next? Are you going to do another one in the Zachary series?
There's a rather unique book. My latest book is not a social justice book.
Okay.
It's a murder mystery.
Okay.
It's about a woman, a right-wing news anchor. She has a talk show, and she's married to a left-wing congressman.
Wow.
So it's a Mary Madeline, James Carville kind of story.
Okay.
If you want to talk about real life inspiration, that's probably some of Carville Madeline, but the congressman is murdered. The wife discovers her husband's body and goes into shock, and she becomes catatonic and is hospitalized and cannot contribute to her own defense. And Zachary, as a favor to a psychiatrist, who was introduced, by the way, in my first book, he's the kid psychiatrist in the first book.
Yep.
Is this woman's therapist, and she asked Zach to represent the so-called the proposed murderer, and the book is about Zach solving the crime, if you will.
Nice. And then the cookbook is hopefully coming out after that, because I'm looking forward to those recipes from your grandmother. So
It's either going to come out in between or after, one or the other.
do you have a website that people can visit and learn more about you, your books, contact you?
You can find me at markmbello.com. That's MARK, middle initial M, BELLO.com.
Okay.
All of my books are there, including my free novella. I wrote a prequel to all of this,
Okay.
and it's available free on the website, and it's also available free on Amazon. I have a LinkedIn page. I have a Facebook page. I have an Instagram page. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, no kidding. So
If you Google my name, you'll find me.
can people reach out to you and do you respond back to them?
info@markmbello.com.
There you go. I think that's really exciting. So, Mark, I wish we had another hour or 2 hours that we could talk, and perhaps we can have another chat. But I have so enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you for watching the Indie Beacon Show, produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2022. Voiceover by B. Allen Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please contact us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on this show, it is free to authors. Simply fill out the form at indiebeacon.com. The music is provided by Happy Follows. The music is entitled